Hi, thanks for coming. I am Elizabeth Lane. I'm the CMO at Appear Here, and our mission is to help make anyone with an idea make it happen. We created these underground session events that we're at today to be a monthly time for us to bring our community together, give them a night for inspiration, ideas, and advice. And really, thanks for joining us today, because it's actually our 1-year anniversary in New York, which we're really excited about. And so for tonight's event, we wanted to bring together some of our favorite brands that have booked with us in New York in the past year. I think New York's really filled with a ton of people with great ideas, but not many of them actually take that leap to make it happen. So tonight will be a great night for inspiration and advice from the founders that have really done so this past year. And before I introduce our panelists, just a quick heads up that there is a sheet of paper on everyone's chair that has space for notes, but also has a little bit about our panelists in case you want to check back. And so now to my right, I have Zach Normandy, the co-founder and CEO of Dirty Lemon. After spending some time in the Coast Guard, Zach dove into F&B by launching a healthy kids snack brand called Little Duck Organics. And then in 2015, with over 5 years of industry experience under his belt, he co-founded Dirty Lemon Beverages, which I think many of you have already tried this evening with our signature cocktail at the bar. Dirty Lemon is actually the first consumer brand to sell products via text message. To Zach's right is Paulina Vexler, the co-founder and CEO of Universal Standard. Following a career in finance, Paulina and her friend Alexandra decided to launch Universal Standard, the inclusive fashion label that's disrupting the plus-size clothing industry. Founded in 2015, the brand has launched pop-ups nationwide and has been featured by the likes of Business of Fashion, Vogue, Glamour, and more. Then to my left, I have Hillary Joseph, the brand director at Cabana Shows and founder of Nada. Hillary has been handling brand direction and partnerships for Cabana Shows, the popular resort wear trade show, for over 5 years. But more recently, she has launched a new retail concept called Nada, which is a curated resort wear shop catering to the New York woman, featuring brands like Solid & Stripe, Supergoop, Caroline Costas, and more. And then finally, to the far left, I have Daniel DDUGOFF. Daniel started his career as a technical designer at Marc Jacobs. He then learned the ins and outs of the New York fashion industry before craving to do something a little bit more creative. And then at age 25, I believe, he founded DDUGOFF, his own line. His line was later chosen for the CFDA Fashion Incubator and has been featured at Opening Ceremony and Stephen Allen. And the great thing is, as I mentioned earlier, all of our panelists have had experience with Appear Here and launched ideas with us in the past year, in addition to us, I think, noting earlier that we all have curly hair, so a bunch of things in common tonight. So just to get started, I wanted to hear a little bit about how all of our panelists came up with their ideas and what it took them. So Zach, maybe I'll start with you to tell us a bit about how you came up with the concept for Dirty Lemon and what it's taken for you to stand out in the crowded F&B world.
Yeah, so, that's very loud. So we launched Dirty Lemon in 2015, and I'll just give a quick little background on the company, but I came from a world with my last brand where we sold products into grocery stores, which I found to be a very antiquated process. So if you present a product to a buyer today, if you guys are all buyers and you say, yes, we love your product, let's put it on the grocery store shelves, it won't get to consumers sometimes up to a year after that approval. So I saw through that process a very inefficient way to launch new products to consumers very quickly. And in thinking through Dirty Lemon before we launched, we wanted to establish a direct relationship with customers and not have to go through the traditional process of distribution and retailers and brokers and all of these different basically layers of distribution that take away from the experience that you want the consumer to have at the end of the day with your product. So we launched in 2015 one single product, which is the black and white bottle, which if you've seen our brand, is probably the product that you've seen. And we decided to sell it only through text message because we wanted to have a direct relationship with all of our customers. And we found great success with our first product, and now we have 7 beverages. We just launched this week a beverage with Vogue magazine. We have 6 other core functional beverages in the line. And and now we're, I think that one thing, so we've done not technically 2, but I'll say 2 things with Appear Here. So we picked up a space last summer called the Drugstore, which was a non-alcoholic cocktail bar concept that we had, where we had bartenders making homemade versions of all of our drinks. So basically what we wanted to do is showcase the craft that goes into all of the beverages that we make in more of like a one-on-one type of an experience, because with our brand, everything we do is pretty much digital. So we launched that last year, and Appear Here actually ended up picking up the space on Elizabeth Street, Princeton Elizabeth, kind of halfway through when we ended up taking it for the summer. So that's how we got to know Appear Here. And then, in closing, I know this is a little winded. We just launched a new beverage on the Lower East Side with a concept we called the Rose Room. So we had a new product that we were launching, which is a rose flavor beverage. We launched it on Valentine's Day, and then we had all of the proceeds from that activation. So it was a one-day flower shop, but all of the proceeds from that activation went to support the Lower East Side Girls Club. So we had the girls from the club working at the flower shop. And for those of you that don't know about the Lower East Side Girls Club, it's an incredible organization that's empowering young women on the Lower East Side to become leaders in their community. So they're teaching them photography, entrepreneurship, just all these like amazing skills that basically sets them up to really succeed, in life. I have 2 daughters, so like I was really touched by this whole the whole vision that they had for the organization. But anyway, so Appear Here, in summary, has been an incredible resource to us because it allows us to very quickly, I think one of the most challenging things about a pop-up is just finding the right space. And we've done a few different retail concepts, like I said now. And you guys make it really, really simple to find a great space very quickly. And thank you for that.
Well, thanks for the promotion there, the free promotion. Now, Polina, over to you. So you came up with the idea for Universal Standard after your now business partner had difficulty finding something for an event. So tell us about that aha moment and then what came next.
Yep, it was completely not my idea. It was all my business partners. We had both spent a lot of our time working abroad, and we both found ourselves in New York at the same time, and both basically had no friends. And we're connected by mutual colleagues who knew that we both needed some friends. And one day we were invited to go to an event. I was excited to go. This all has a theme. I wanted to make friends. And she all of a sudden said, I'm not going. And I said, why aren't you going? And she said, I have nothing to wear. And I said what I thought was the most obvious thing. You live a couple blocks away from Fifth Avenue. Let's just go buy you something. We're going to this event. And she looked at me like I had 2 heads and said, there's not a single store on Fifth Avenue that I could walk into and buy clothing for myself. And this whole world basically lives behind a veil unless you are the one suffering from the lack. So I had no idea, as I'm sure a lot of people have no idea, that it's very hard to find clothing if you're in double-digit sizing. So then she took me into her world, and she showed me what she can participate in. So we went to a department store, Circle of Trust here. It was Bloomingdale's on the Upper East Side. We passed by all the glitzy and glamorous floors that were beautifully merchandised and perfumed, and went up to the furniture floor. And somewhere next to last year's bikinis and also the non-stick pot and pans was this little corner. She said, look, this is the only thing that I can buy in the whole store. And I didn't believe her because I said that's impossible, because the majority of women, something like 70% of women in the US, are actually size 14 and above. So how could it be that that majority only gets to participate in this low quality, unstylish type of clothing that I was looking at? So we decided to change that, and our premise is basically making a really expensive wardrobe for my business partner. So we make clothes that she wants to wear. She's the creative director and the designer, and my job is to help bring her vision to life. And so if you think about the clothing, it's just minimalist, quality, style relevant, great fabrics for the everyday. And we started at size 10 and go up to size 28. And we are announcing next month that we're actually extending our size ranges and going both up in size to size 32 and down to size 6.
Great. And Daniel, so you came up with DUGOFF while you were at Marc Jacobs.
Yeah, so
What sort of holes did you see in the industry at that time?
well, so really what happened was I wanted to be a designer, not a technical designer, and
Okay, fair enough.
and I had to create my own job. But the idea behind DUGOFF when I launched it, and still to today, is to use designer fabrics, designer prints, but to sell it at a somewhat more affordable price, where I can still produce things ethically and use fine fabrics, but to do it in a way that's really appropriate for guys to wear every day. So we do a ton of prints and color and texture, things that you find in designer collections, but we make it accessible for guys in tech startups to wear all the time. So the fits are pretty straightforward, but there's a lot of fun and levity to the collection.
And Hillary, so after years of managing the Resort Wear trade show, what sort of what was the impetus for going out on your passion project?
I mean, point blank, someone asked me how to get a couple of brands to do something with them, and I was just like, oh, I feel like maybe we should do something really big, and it was 3 weeks later that we did it. So I threw myself in it on purpose and by mistake at the same time. And I think all of it comes from, like, on my normal day-to-day, I work with industry B2B of where do you find swim and how does that work? And when you're in New York in the summer, or when you're in New York and even during core time, which is supposed to be December, to buy swim, it's really hard to find retailers that actually carry those brands. So it was really just a note to, like, the way that I personally shop of I can't find anything at the time that I want it. And it was the right time because someone brought it up to me.
Great. And so it's interesting in this panel, we have everyone on the right who are digital first brands, and then the two brands on the left are physical first brands. Trying to probe a little bit on the difference between the two. So Zach and Paulina, what were the benefits that you found with launching digital first? Maybe Paulina, I'll start with you.
I think the main benefit was that we had no one telling us what to do. You basically, I mean, you're launching direct to consumer, so you don't have to worry about selling to a wholesale partner, and you don't have to work on any timeline or any schedule or really be influenced by which colors or what type of clothing is currently in style. You get to basically dictate exactly what you want to do, how you want to do. And you know what? If you're delayed, which 99% of the time you are, that's okay, because you're just doing it for yourself.
Yeah, for me, it was just more of how can we do things better, coming from a world where we had to go to, like, the only path to distribution was through retailers. And I think seeing, early brands like Bonobos and Warby and Casper and all of the early front runners in direct to consumer, there was, I think my big, eureka moment was just, why is no one doing this with food? And why is there not a direct to consumer channel for food distribution, which Until recently, there really hasn't been anything. So yeah, that was a.
And then Hillary and Daniel, sort of what benefit do you see of physical retail and sort of starting there?
I mean, I'm dealing with swimwear, which I think, again, goes back to when you're dealing with your own self. It's impossible to buy underwear and swimwear online. Like, you buy it, you try 10 sizes, you return it. How does that work? I mean, I would love to go digital at some point when I can make this happen. But then if I go digital, I'm still going to want to do pop-ups because I think there's so much value in when you have a product like that that's so specific, and when it's about the fit of it, when it's about the quality of the fabrics, to try that on in person and be able to experience that.
Yeah, and I launched my brand at a time when sort of the model was you get picked up by some specialty retailers, and then a department store will pick you up, and then you can build enough, your orders are big enough with your factories that then you can launch e-commerce. And this was 2013, 2014, and really launching a digitally native brand wasn't a thing at that point. And I was following that model, and since then that has completely fallen apart. And I did a collaboration last summer with a women's line, with a friend who has a brand called Duzen Duzen. And we did a really limited run of 5 of her women's prints on men's shirts. And we just released it on her website and my website. And we sold so well. And it was the first time we'd ever done something where we didn't have, well, she does this with some of her product. It was the first time I'd done something where I was in complete control of the whole process. It dropped when we got the inventory. We priced it so that we made the money back and we could pay each other from it, and we sold it really well. And it was a sort of aha moment for me that I didn't have to go through retailers to be able to get my product to the customer. And I hit a whole new wave of customers that I wasn't talking to before because it was a lower price point. It was a really quick story that hadn't been teased out in the press 6 months before. It was just super fresh.
And now, as a team, we were reading an article in Inc. last week on digitally native brands that are actually seeing more scale from physical retail than e-commerce. Bonobos and Warby being among some of the brands mentioned. Paulina, you've actually, while you're digitally native, have done quite a lot of offline retail and are sort of continuing to expand that. Are you seeing more success now from physical retail?
Yeah, last year we decided to do something pretty crazy. We went on a 2.5-month cross-country pop-up tour. So we started in Seattle, then went down to Portland, San Francisco, LA, Austin, Dallas, Houston, St. Louis, Chicago, Columbus, Ohio, DC, and ended in New York. And we did 35 pop-ups. And just a team of 6 people. We had someone driving the Penske truck. And then the rest of us, I was driving the minivan with the 5 other team members. And it was incredible because it was really, we have showrooms in New York and we have a showroom in Seattle. And so we did have some customer experience, but meeting your customer, really learning about them, understanding the fit issues, understanding why they love you, understanding what issues that they have, had been instrumental. And so we ended up finishing our pop-up tour in New York with an event with a peer here. So we had a collab with Danielle Brooks, and we really wanted to do it bigger than what we did with our other pop-ups around the country. So we rented a space in Soho and did a 5-day pop-up with her, which was amazing.
And what were some of the goals around these pop-ups? Was it building awareness, getting customer feedback, sales?
So the main goal was marketing. We hadn't raised money at that point yet. We had no money. And our goal was how do we get the word out as cheaply as possible to customers that we knew were going to have the highest repeat purchase rates. So we saw from our showrooms that our customers' repeat purchase rates would be around 75%. They were extremely loyal. So how could we do that around markets other than New York? And so the pop-up tour made the most sense for us on a very, very, very small budget.
Mm-hmm. And then Hillary, you just kind of went for it, as you mentioned at the end of last year with your new concept. Sort of what did you learn from Beach on Bowery, and how are you looking to extend that moving forward?
I mean, I think the whole project overall was, can I build something on my own, was the question. And what comes out of it is I learned that my friends like me a lot more than I thought they did.
Good validation.
And everyone was willing to help me, and my boyfriend stayed up till 4 a.m. every night with me while I cried in the corner. And I think for that, it's, you know, it's growing this now into like, okay, I want to take what I learned from that, from finding the venue to working with landlords, to knowing the difference of what is properly heated in the winter to what can be air conditioned in the summer. You know, all of the small things that you don't actually think about when you go into it, and taking that and saying like, okay, how do I take that now into these core seasons of, if I'm dealing with swim, it's what's the right moment to do it? What are the right days to do it? I mean, when I did this, it was a 3-4 day event. And you know, it's now building the press around it to make sure that when I have those 4 days and we're open, we're busy all 4 days. And it's all a trial and error, honestly.
Great. And Zach, you mentioned previously, that you had launched a pop-up around Valentine's Day. What were some of the successes around that, and how are you going to move that into your next activations?
So since we have a direct relationship with customers, we can send them, whenever we're doing a physical activation, we can send them a message direct to their phone and invite them in, just like you would a friend or a family member if you're inviting them for dinner or over to get a drink or something like that. So we're trying to develop this personal level of trust with our customers that a lot of consumer brands don't have, and we did that for the Rose Room. So we were very busy all day giving away our product. So we texted all of our customers in New York, which is like 20,000 or so customers, and we told them to come to the Rose Room, and a lot of people ended up buying flowers for loved ones for Valentine's Day, and then we were able to use that opportunity to obviously give back to a really great charity, and then also allow people to try one of our new products. So physical activations are key to our brand. You know, we've always advertised in the digital space, so having a place to be able to actually engage face-to-face with consumers is really important. Looking forward, we're doing, we just signed a lease for a full year actually in Tribeca to recreate the drugstore, which is the concept that we had last year. And we're very excited for it. So we're now starting to, as we kind of come off of these short activations, we can start to think through, because they're done on such a small scale, we can start to think about how they would look, you know, for a longer period of time or in a more elaborate way, which is, so for us in a lot of ways, it's proof of concept too.
Testing and learning, definitely. And then Daniel, you led a multi-brand concept store in the heart of Nolita. Why that location? What did you learn from that event?
Yeah, so I'd done a series of small open studios where I would, through Instagram and email list, tell people that I was going to basically be in my office over the weekend and invite people there. And they were successful, and people came through, and then I started doing it with another menswear brand friend, and we would do it together. And then I just started talking to more and more brands, and I got this group of 8 really strong menswear brands who were all available the same weekend in October, and we sort of we took over this basement in Nolita that had stairs to the street, and the foot traffic on Elizabeth Street is insane. And the day we were setting up, before it was all there, tourists were walking in off the street asking if they could come in, and we were like, we don't have internet yet. We haven't figured this out. But we were open for 2 days plus a friends and family evening, and all of us had done similar events, and I did literally 5 times my best open studio in my office in those 2 days in Nolita.
From a sales perspective?
From a sales perspective.
And based on the success of that event, what's next for you guys?
Well, so actually I'm working on a new concept right now, a new brand that I'm hoping to launch in like a month and a half. That's a direct-to-consumer swim brand. And before...
You guys should talk.
Yeah, for men, and we're... basically, as a proof of concept, we're not going to launch e-commerce to start. We're going to do, even though the idea is for it to be digitally native, we're going to spend the summer going to beaches and selling men's swimsuits. So,
Well, excited to see that.
so basically, it's I need guys to tell me what they think about it before I go ham and
Makes sense. Yeah,
Press the
definitely
button.
test it out too.
Yeah.
And then just a couple of last minute sort of quick fire questions for everyone. One that we like to ask is sort of an idea that you all wish you had thought of. So one idea out there that you've seen that you really admire. So maybe I'll start with you, Pauline, on this side.
I was just thinking of one. Oh God, can I go last?
Anyone else want to pass it on?
An idea that is good that we haven't
That you wish
we
you had
wish we
started.
would have thought of. I need some time to think about this.
I have an idea.
All right.
It's
go
totally
for
not
it.
it's totally not my space.
That's okay.
But I wish I'd thought of Fenty Beauty.
Okay. Why not?
Like,
They're doing
first, I
well.
wish I was Rihanna.
Perfect. Don't we all?
And second, I wish I'd thought of, it's just like the perfect time for the perfect product.
Yeah.
And she can use her platform and I think about this all the time what's scary about launching a direct-to-consumer business is not having the data on the customer, and how Amazon can launch whatever they want because they know. They know that if they produce 6,000 triple extra large in red, those will sell because they know Champion sells that.
Yep.
But for me to launch a brand, I just have to guess to start.
You have to go to a lot of beaches with your swim trunks.
But Rihanna knows who her customer base is, and she knows who her followers are, and she knows how much they'll pay for something, and she can sell
leverage that.
60 shades of the same product, and she will sell each one.
What about the rest of you guys? Any Rihanna hopefuls? Oh, he stumped you all. So I'll move on to my next question then. For now, maybe I'll circle back later. But what's the best piece of advice you got as you were starting your idea? Maybe Paulina, I'll start with you on this one. Second chance that you got as you were starting your idea.
The best piece of advice was basically not to listen to anyone and just do what you think is right, because you're going to get so much advice and everyone has an opinion and everyone has the best opinion, and just listen to what your gut says rather than taking all these opinions.
I would tell people to quit faster and don't, because there's a lot of bad ideas out there, and a lot of people waste years and years and tons of money pursuing bad ideas. And also, I think people should be more honest with their friends that have bad ideas, because it could be...
So advice to the audience then.
Absolutely. I mean, I think it's in the flip side of that is that the faster you come to terms with not being attached to an idea, the faster you'll move on and do something even better. And I think that's a tough lesson to learn when a concept or a project or a business is your baby. But I think that, yeah, I mean, it's all about making mistakes and being fast and just keep moving forward. So
Failing fast, right? And what about you, Hillary?
Mine was, I tried to keep the whole thing totally secret and do it all myself in the beginning. And then someone was like, what are you doing? And and I realized that the second that I told my friends, the second I told the people that I work with on a daily basis, everyone was there to support it and do everything they could to help make it happen. So I feel like that was probably the best advice I could have ever gotten, was to talk about it.
I think mine, before I even launched the brand, the first day of the first fashion internship I had, my boss, who was not the most social person, sort of took me aside and was like, you have to be nice to everybody because you never know who you'll need to contact later. You just be nice to the factory owner, the factory worker. You never know if the factory worker is going to own the factory tomorrow. Just, you never know who, if the person in front of you in line is the editor at Vogue that's going to write the review about you. Just be nice to everyone.
And have you gone back to some of those early contacts?
Absolutely, and from that I started keeping track of everybody I ever met and just being able to
Building a Rolodex from day one.
Yeah, and it's like, it's crazy who those people are now.
Great. And then one last one, I guess, for everyone, hopefully a fun one. If you could launch an idea in any space, in any city, where would it be? Maybe I'll start with Paulina. in this space, in New York.
This is a good space. I mean, we're actually looking, as I said, we are looking to extend our size range from size 6 to size 32, and we're looking to do a multi-brand activation of that with a lot of partners who are also inclusive in some way, be that Rihanna and Fenty, or be that with clothing or bathing suits or anything. So this would be a great space to do that.
Great, that was easy.
I'm going to, after this business, I want to do something in hospitality. I think hotels are it's a very stagnant space, and there's just starting to like be real rich, immersive hotel experiences. But the majority of hotels are Marriotts and Hyatts and W's that are just really kind of stale. And I think that there's a lot of innovation that could happen in that space.
Where would you open your first hotel?
I mean, yeah, like bigger markets like New York, LA. That's a boring answer, but I think that's where people are, or Miami. I think that there's a lot of opportunity there.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And Hillary, I think we might know this.
It's kind of on that path. It's actually the concept I'm doing, but hitting it with independent resorts. So figuring out what their key weekends are throughout the year and being like, hey, I'm going to take Nada and pop up for these 3 days on your core seasons and take that and hit Mexico, hit Greece, hit every place in the Caribbean where the cool kids are hanging out, and not just the Marriotts and the Hiltons throughout the world, which is where most of these places are.
Yeah, nice.
I'm very interested in men's swim right now.
No.
And throwing parties in beach locations to show people the product.
Great, we're there. So with that, I'll open it up to the audience in case there's any questions for our panelists. Yeah.
I think some of you might have had investors. Is that a question I can ask? Just like around fundraising and how you knew when it was the right time and how you found the right partner, if they found you, and just any advice in that world and how it like helped propel you, if it did.
I would say now is the right time. There's so much capital out there right now. If you think you should be raising money, you should raise right now, because this is not going to last forever, and there's a lot of capital out there right now. So it's like if you have a business and you're looking to raise, I would make that that advice across the board. Yeah, if you can raise, then you should, for sure. If there's something of value there that people want to invest in, and I wouldn't have said that. I think a lot of entrepreneurs would probably make the argument that you shouldn't take capital and all this stuff, but I think money is a great thing when it helps you like realize your dreams in a meaningful way. Investors aren't all bad, so. Yeah.
I emptied my bank account to do the pop-up, and I became super savvy on who takes returns the longest, and did it for proof of concept so that I can get to the point that it's investors. Like, there's only so many times that you can try it on your own and put yourself in that position. It's awesome to throw yourself out there, but until you have that backing, it's...
Yeah, I'll say the same thing. So my first business, I maxed out all of my credit cards. Cash advances, bad interest rate, really, really bad. So I was cash advancing, this is really bad. I was cash advancing to, I don't even know how I actually manufactured this process, but I was cash advancing to a bank account to wire money to China to order packaging. Because I couldn't actually, I don't know. Oh no, this is what I was doing. I was writing myself, I remember now, I was writing myself a check. Because like with credit cards, some credit cards, they give you a check. I was writing myself a check, cashing the check into my bank, then taking the money from my bank account and wiring it to China. And I did that with 3 or 4 credit cards. So I would say don't ask for money until you've gone through that process and you are so tapped out. Personally, we were like, I'm on my knees, like, please help me. Like.
And I built DDUGOFF on my own without external investment, and each season was barely able to fund the next season. And then I was 5 years in, and I had built a track record of growth, but it wasn't a hockey stick growth. And thinking of moving forward to the next step, it wasn't really an investable project. So when I started thinking about what the next thing was or what the second thing was, it had to be something that was investable from an early point. So this new business that I'm working on is built around proving the concept quickly and then moving straight into investment before I invest more than a couple $1,000s in it.
Yeah, we bootstrapped the company ourselves to begin with. And then we raised money because we had no network. And we both worked abroad for many, many years and were 1,000 phone calls away from making anything happen. So we raised money based on who could make us 2-3 phone calls away rather than 10.
Great, and there was another question back here.
I have a question for Paulina and Daniel. I know you use the Rose Twins in your marketing, and you have your collaboration with Dan and Dee. How have you seen the return on the investment using those social media stars, or like what growth did you see from that?
It was great. I mean, we chose her because we liked her style, and she came into the showroom. We actually reached out cold to her. So with her, we just emailed her and said, hey, we love your style. And we started talking to her management team, and then she came in and she liked what we were doing. And it was a genuine partnership. She designed pieces. And then because she was so invested in what she was doing and she was so genuine on her social media channels, I think the first time she posted, our Instagram followers went up by like 2,000.
And I was really fortunate that my brand is in the CFDA incubator program, and through that we were connected with social media marketing experts who then offered their services, sort of introducing us to influencers and booking campaigns for us. Men's marketing doesn't respond the same way that women's does. Guys don't follow other guys the same way that men and women follow other women. And the followers that I did get initially from being involved with the Rhodes Twins, and they're incredible guys, and we're super into the brand and excited to work with, and I was excited to work with them, and they were excited to work with me, dropped off because the next week I wasn't posting about them. So I found that I do better when I tell really specific stories about the collection and the product and how that product came to be and who behind the scenes of shows and videos and photo shoots versus leaning on celebrity. But at the same time, this collaboration I did with Duzen, she has a huge Instagram following of men and women because she also does home textiles and has an amazing sort of Memphis print sensibility. And guys really wanted her product. So once I became an outlet for them to buy it, they've remained really loyal customers since then.
Great. I think there was another one maybe in the center. Yeah. Everyone here, what was your largest investment in your space, in your physical retail space?
For me, it was like, it wasn't even really the space. It was like the deposit on the space, which I knew I was going to get back unless like the other 7 brands really messed stuff up. And also just renting racks and tables and figuring out internet and those sorts of things were. But it ended up being so nominal, divided amongst 8 brands, and I had most of them pay me beforehand. So it just, or they paid me in cash out of the money that they'd made over the weekend. That it wasn't hard. It was sort of a no-brainer.
Anyone else want to add?
Mine was all furniture, and I returned every single piece of it. and I feel like that is the worst thing to say, but at the same time,
Think
it
frugal.
is. Yeah, if you can walk into a store and return that, and you just get your restocking fee. So I rented certain things that you had to rent, but in terms of furniture, to make the space look as beautiful as you can make it, to make it people want to walk in there. That was my largest expense for sure.
Great. Anyone
I mean,
else?
we did 35 of these, of like unpacking and repacking the Penske truck every night. So the expenses it was really the Penske truck.
Yeah, for us it's like raw materials. But our first drugstore, I bought a gigantic drug sign on eBay from an antiques graveyard, and it was like $10,000. So, but I knew that. But there was a lot of photos that were taken. I knew we needed a staple piece to make it all happen.
Good marketing investment.
Yeah, exactly. But I have, speaking to returning furniture, I have on many occasions we've returned every single thing from an activation. We've sent interns to IKEA in taxi cabs full of bags that.
They take it fully assembled.
Oh, everything. Yeah, you can send everything back there, and I have no shame in that. It's fine. They're a much bigger company than we are.
Good practical tips. Then I think we have time for one last question if there is one. All right, otherwise we'll just wrap up, and I just wanted to thank the panelists for their time this evening. I really appreciate you guys all coming out.